Welcome to 5 and 5 from the One Stop Co-op Shop, where I discuss 5 key elements of a game in about 5 minutes. I'm Michael Kelly, and today I'm looking at Dune House Secrets from Portal Games. And no disclaimer needed. For some reason, Colin pre-ordered this and then remembered that he doesn't like these games, so he sent me his copy. So Dune House Secrets is based on the Detective series of games. I didn't like the original, but I liked the first expansion, the 1980s one, quite a bit. How did House Secrets hold up, especially for me, a huge fan of Dune? Let's find out and get to the list. So first at number 5, I want to talk about the value of the game. And this is going to be a mix, but it'll change for you based on your taste. And what I mean is this is a puzzle and story-based game. Once you've gone through, you've seen most of what the game has to offer, so I can't really imagine somebody wanting to play it a second time. So what do you get for the price? You get 4 scenarios, one of them shorter, so I think on average it'll take people 3, maybe to 5 hours to play through it all. But I think what's going to matter most is what you do with the game afterwards. Do you sell games actively? Do you trade them? Do you have some friends or family members you can pass it along to? If so, the value might seem a lot better. If not, you might want to pass. Next, we get to my number 4, which is the website integration in the game. To play the game, you have to go onto this proprietary website, just like you did for Detective, and log into it, create an account. And this is a full-on con for me, not because I have to use a device, not because I have to make an account. I'm kind of used to that, and I don't mind apps and stuff in games. It's a con because the website is often useless and often annoying. So you basically use it for 4 things. You have the opening to each scenario, although you kind of already have that written down. You can also, as you investigate, find these lore pieces and these books. The lore is actually kind of cool. They have animations, they have narrations, but the books are terrible. They just give you some information the exact same way as if you read one of the cards in the game, so I'm not really sure why these aren't on cards. And they go forward so that the text disappears. So often I found myself having to pause it so I had time to read and process what I was seeing. And then finally, at the end of each mission, you make some kind of choice, but I'm going to talk about that a lot later. So we'll just leave it by saying that it feels like the website was a little bit wasted. And even though I don't usually mind apps, the fact that I have to create an account and go in there to have almost nothing useful, it's a bit frustrating. And I have another full con at number 3, and this is going to be a pretty harsh one. That's pretty much all of the gamified elements in the entire game. Ouch. So the big ones are holdovers from the other Detective games. One of the main ones is you have these resources, and as you investigate cards, you can pay the resources to flip them and find out more. But I didn't like it as much in Dune because it felt like, first of all, those resources weren't limited enough, but then also I tended to find out the exact same information whichever cards I went to and whether I flipped them over or not. So it didn't seem to present an interesting and tough resource choice. And then they also have this threat track, which later becomes a victory point track, and based on choices you make, you can move along it, and it might take away experience, so you don't get those resources to flip cards, but I didn't find that interesting, and there weren't really enough threats to progress the track that much, and it didn't really matter if you did anyway because you couldn't lose the game. So altogether, I just felt like the game elements were a miss. I'd rather just experience the story than try to tack these on, whereas I did think they worked in Detective generally and offered tough choices, not so much here. And I just mentioned it, the story in the game is my number 2, and hey, this one is a mix. I actually enjoy quite a bit here. On the positive side, the story, the secrets you're uncovering, the political machinations are pretty interesting, especially if, like me, you're really familiar with the Dune universe and have read the books a bunch of times, and you can really kind of appreciate the things they're talking about. But on the negative side, if you don't know Dune, they throw so many names at you, new ones and ones from the book, and it becomes total fantasy name overload pretty quickly. And the other big knock against the story is that while it has some cool stuff going on in ambiance and setting and theme, except for a few times in the scenarios, you don't really feel like your characters are an active part of that. They tend to kind of wander around to different bars and places and overhear guards saying stuff they shouldn't, or talk to bartenders who tell them every dang detail they could ever want to know. So it really feels exposition heavy instead of plot focused. And that's not my preference for stories, although again, I did enjoy kind of finding out the secrets that were happening. But I'm going down to a full-on con for number 1. I talked about this in a recent podcast. The thing that disappoints me the most about the game, and that is how each scenario ends. And this is a very weird one for me because in my original Detective review a billion years ago, my number 2 point, a con, was that I didn't like how the missions ended and that the chief of your security firm would know all the answers. So if you just happened to guess some questions wrong, they would just tell you the correct answers, and it was weird thematically and also kind of frustrating. So what they did instead here, very weird, is they cut out the detecting entirely. They cut out the mystery entirely. You're looking into who killed somebody. They tell you that your objective is to solve this crime. You get to the end, and nobody asks about it and nobody discusses it. And it's like it never happened. You just move on to the next mission. They might ask you like which location you want to go to, but it doesn't matter. You don't care. And I read a post Ignazi, the designer, wrote where he said that this was a choice because they were reacting to complaints like mine that the ending of the game could be frustrating. But I think taking away the mystery was the wrong fix. What they should have done is looked at more recent Chronicles of Crimes or looked at Detective City of Angels, my favorite of these games, where when you get the mystery wrong, they give you more time to solve it. When you get the mystery wrong, they give you more time to solve it. That solves the frustration because then you can go find out what the mystery is. Removing the mystery, making everything you did basically have no importance and meaning at all, that's not the fix that we want. So yeah, very disappointing. It basically makes your actions in the game feel kind of meaningless. So overall, I can recommend Dune House Secrets to people who really enjoy the Dune franchise and want to see like a little story of intrigue in there, especially if you're someone who sells, trades, or gifts games frequently so you can pass it on to somebody else. But otherwise, if you're looking for good gameplay, if you're looking for a good mystery, if you like the detective games and want more like that, I would avoid this one because I think it's kind of a big miss in terms of an actual detective game or in terms of an engaging choose your own adventure with branching paths because it misses the mark there too. Thanks for watching everybody and I'll see you at the next stop.